The first thing I would say is execution velocity is incredibly important. There's a couple people who have said this phrase that the new mode is velocity. Fundraising is always a grind for any fund manager, no matter how good your performance, no matter how many years you've been at it. Multiple time founders, we love those because we've worked with them before, they've worked with us, we've seen success with them, they choose us again. The best founders have choices and you want to be that choice for them.
Welcome to Trailblazers, the podcast where we sit down with contrarian tech leaders who found conventional success in unconventional ways. Today on the show, I am so thrilled to be joined by Jeff Bussgang. Jeff has spent his career at the intersection of startup experimentation and transformative technology. For over a decade, he has taught one of Harvard Business School's most popular entrepreneurship courses, Launching Tech Ventures, LTV I've heard it called for short, where he's helped thousands of founders build and scale successful companies. He's also a co-founder of Flybridge Capital Partners, which is a leading seed VC fund with over $1 billion under management. And he and his partners were early to recognize AI's potential to transform startups, evolving the firm's investment thesis to focus exclusively on AI-forward companies and founders. Before his time as an educator and investor, Jeff experienced the startup journey firsthand, joining Open Market's early team and helping lead it through an IPO in 1996, and then co-founding UPromise in 2000, which was successfully acquired. This unique vantage point as professor, investor, and startup executive has given him an unmatched perspective on how AI is revolutionizing the startup landscape, which we'll talk a lot about today. Now he's sharing the frameworks and insights to help a new generation of founders build faster and smarter than ever before. Let's welcome Jeff.
Thank you so much, Erica. Great to be here.
I'm excited to chat. So before we get into it, we like to start with an icebreaker. I sort of hinted when you first got here that we like to get personal. So we're going to go for the jugular, okay?
Yeah, first concert I've attended.
Yeah, you know what? I wish it were that light, but I would love to hear. What's that answer? Do you have?
Twisted Sister.
Does it age
I'm
me?
dating myself.
I know. I was going to say I don't know Twisted Sister. I'm so sorry. What's like the genre?
You don't know Twisted Sister.
Is that so bad?
It is bad.
Okay, tell me. What's the genre?
Hard rock.
Oh, that's just not even my taste either. Even if we were similar in age. Okay, I'll look up tonight though. So when someone asks me again, I'll know.
I'm literally blown away that you've never heard of Twisted Sister.
Really? No, never.
Yeah, but okay. Let's run with it.
Like hard rock as in banger,
Yes.
Yeah. That's not really my cup of tea, but I support your interests. Okay?
At age 16.
Wow. Age 16, that's a very formative time. Very angsty time.
Right.
Yeah, I was more of pop, singer-songwriter, more light. The intense hard rock. Not for me, but I support you. Thank you for being vulnerable.
Yes.
Okay, so this is the actually hard question. What has been the hardest part of your journey so far? And the part that you look back on, it could be personal or professional, but it almost broke you along your path.
So VCs, especially early stage VCs, we fail more than we succeed.
Yeah.
In a portfolio of 30 or 40 companies, we'll have a couple mega home runs, unicorns, but it's a classic power law. We'll have dozens and dozens of failures. And as somebody who had some academic success, some entrepreneurial success, I entered into the VC industry in my early 30s with a lot of confidence, and hitting that failure time and time and time again, that was hard.
What was the hardest part? I mean, I see it now as someone who runs my own firm. Yeah, you could pick many different answers. Is it the fundraising part? Is it the having to say no to great founders? Is it having to regret passing on certain founders? Is it competing for deals? Talk to me about, if you had to pinpoint it, what's been the hardest part?
If I continue to pull the thread on the failure theme,
yeah.
For me, the hardest is I believe in the founders that we back. I believe in them wholeheartedly, and I work my ass off to make them successful.
Yeah.
And 6, 7, 8 out of 10 times, they're not successful. And that's really hard. And you pour hours and hours over many years in supporting these founders, and it just doesn't work. And there may be a lot of reasons why. It could be execution, it could be environment, it could be exogenous factors. Maybe they get out-competed. And it's just so disappointing.
Yeah, it's disappointing for you, disappointing for them. It's hard for everyone.
Heartbreaking.
Yeah. So 22 years ago, you went into venture. I was looking up the dates. If I have it right, I think it's 2003. What made you even want to go into venture? I mean, now it's a silly question because for some reason we've glamorized venture capital and having your own fund, and there's 1,000,001 new emerging funds. But back when you started, that was very much not the case. So I'm so curious, like, how did you learn about it and why did you want to start a fund?
So if you go back in time, 2002, I had been coming off of 2 venture-backed success stories. One, as you mentioned, that went public in the mid-90s, was a unicorn valuation company before we called them unicorns, and the other sold successfully eventually in the early mid-2000s. Both were venture-backed, and so I had experienced a lot the venture-backed ecosystem from a founder lens and a joiner lens. And in fact, the way I got to the first of my companies was through a venture capital firm, Greylock, who had introduced me to that company. And the way I got to know Greylock is that they recruited me coming out of business school. I was at Harvard Business School. I was class of 1995, just celebrated my 30th
Congratulations.
reunion. Thank you.
Did you guys have a reunion?
Oh, yes.
Oh,
reunions are big
okay, good,
at
good,
Harvard
good.
Business School.
And you're
Very
still
big.
there, so I feel like you probably know so many people
Home
and you helped
team advantage.
organize.
It's
yeah.
really fun for me.
Yeah.
Anyway, so they recruited me for a partner track role coming out of business school. They had recruited previously to me in 1994 a gentleman named Chip Hazard who became a partner there at a very young age, and he was looking for a buddy. And at the time, I didn't want to be a venture capitalist. I was a computer science undergrad. I studied AI in the 1980s at Harvard. I was very focused on being a builder and a founder. And so they graciously offered to introduce me to a number of their portfolio companies after I turned down the opportunity to work with them. Turned out to be a very expensive decision on my part in many ways, but it worked out okay because we built a valuable company that went public and did okay. But that's how I got to know the venture capital industry. And so Chip, in 2002, left Greylock to start Flybridge, and I joined him. He invited me very graciously to join him shortly after starting, and we were very fortunate. We had a single LP who pledged $100 million to us to start our first fund. It was
The dream.
The dream.
Oh my God.
And in 2002, as you point out, there was really a desert of venture capital on the East Coast. Everybody was shifting west, including Greylock, which is why Chip spun out. And later, another young Greylock partner, David Aronoff, spun out and joined us. And so there was really a dearth of early-stage venture capital in New York and in Boston. And that's at the time around when USV was started and First Round was started, and this whole generation of new funds in the East Coast ecosystem.
It's so interesting. Yeah, it's like Josh was in Philadelphia, right? USV is iconic New York. So you sort of built up the East Coast ecosystem.
Yeah, we were in Boston. We ended up building a New York office when we led the Series A at MongoDB along with USV.
Oh, just a small company. People may have heard it.
A small company that ended up being a very successful company. It's about a $30 billion market cap today.
And the CEO just stepped down.
He did.
Like yesterday, right?
Yes, after an incredibly long run. My partner, Chip, who I just mentioned, is still on the board even 6 years now after the IPO. But that's a long story. But my point being, the New York tech ecosystem, we were drawn into it, and the MongoDB investment really allowed us to become a New York native firm as well as a Boston native firm.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, it's interesting to hear about the Boston piece because when I think about you guys, I think of New York. That's really my association.
That's great to hear. We've worked hard on that in the last 10 years.
It works. That's what I think of you as. We can get into it later, but I think part of that is like your next wave push to really bring New York influencer, operator, founder types, which is an interesting strategy.
And that's intentional in terms of the New York strategy. And my partner, Jesse Middleton, who came out of WeWork, was one of the founding team members of WeWork, and he has even better stories than I do, joined us just under 10 years ago and really helped lead our New York efforts and create this ecosystem that has been so successful for Flybridge. But I think that's resting on the work of hundreds of New York ecosystem, thousands of individuals in the New York tech ecosystem. New York has been a booming tech ecosystem in the last 10 years.
Totally. Yeah, Jesse's he's really great. Okay, I have to ask just about this $100 million LP. Like, how did that come together? And then we'll get into your background studying AI in the 80s, which is very interesting. But a $100 million LP, I mean, we pray for that. Wouldn't that be the dream? But then you're also very concentrated, so it's very scary too. But tell me about that.
The first fund was one LP, this one individual.
Yeah.
And he was a multi-billionaire in Boston who had been a fabulously successful entrepreneur and had started a venture capital fund in China that was tied to his operating businesses and had done very well and wanted to have a venture capital firm in his hometown of Boston. And so he was really looking to recruit a team to start a venture capital fund and platform tied to his operating businesses. And so that's sort of how we formed, and we're very lucky in that regard. And then over time, we raised outside capital.
Of course, yeah. I imagine he wasn't able to keep funding you, but it's cool. It's sort of like the best of the family office world, but still you get to have your own brand and decide what you want to do.
We were very grateful for that initial kickoff. He unfortunately passed away maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago, but he was a terrific catalyst to start the firm.
It's amazing. Okay, so let's get into you studying AI in the 80s. You don't hear that every day. Tell me more about that, and how has your interest in AI evolved? So I know that a lot of what you guys share now publicly, a lot of what you wrote about in your recent book, which we'll talk about, is all things AI, which is very timely. But how has your interest in AI also fluctuated over the years? Because I think everyone, including myself, is spending a lot of time thinking about it and talking about it, but not everyone has had, 40 years to be thinking about it. So talk to me about that early interest and sort of how your interest has changed over the years.
Yeah, and as I describe this, I'll just say I'm very self-conscious of the fact that if I were really smart, I would have invested in NVIDIA 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Really catalyze.
All of us.
Catalyze that interest in a better way financially.
Yeah.
And yet in the 1980s, I was obsessed with AI, and in large part it came out of Isaac Asimov. So I was a big science fiction. Do you know who Isaac Asimov is?
You know what? You're giving me a long list of things I need to look up after our podcast.
I bet you know.
Is it like a science fiction author?
He was a science fiction author.
Okay.
He wrote two very foundational series. One is called Foundation, which is a TV series now, and the other is I, Robot, which became a Will Smith movie.
I do know I, Robot.
Okay.
See, Will Smith makes it cool and young and fresh.
And I'm all about cool, young, and fresh, Erica. All about it.
All about it, okay.
So I was obsessed with Isaac Asimov and his books and those series, and so when the PC came out in the mid-1980s, early 1980s, I got an Apple II Plus for my bar mitzvah with my bar mitzvah money and learned to program. And then I got really into machine learning and AI and neural networks. And so when I went to Harvard College in computer science, I studied computer vision, natural language processing. I wrote my thesis on neural networks and explainability. Took some graduate school courses. I did a summer job in computer vision and satellite imagery. This is, again, 1980s.
Yeah, crazy.
Crazy. And I think the real point here is that in the arc of those 40 years, the compute power and the data capabilities caught up with the vision and the dream. Mm-hmm. But we had the same vision and dream 40 years ago. My old textbooks, which I keep meaning to post in a LinkedIn post at some point, had robots on them and all the imagery and the reality of today. Those were the textbooks of the 1980s coming out of the MIT, Harvard, Caltech, Stanford ecosystem in the world of AI. So yeah, that was my passion academically, intellectually. And if you look at the companies that I was a joiner and then a founder in, we used AI and machine learning techniques to do personalization, e-commerce, secure transactions, all the things that we did in those early days. But of course, we didn't have LLMs. And so our AI...
Which changes the game.
Changed the game dramatically, of course. And so our AI investing at Flybridge began about 20 years ago, and we invested in a 3D computer vision company that was acquired successfully by 3M. We invested in a machine learning for lending company called Zest AI, which to this day has become a real leader in the space of fintech and AI. And over time began to do more and more in the world of AI. The MongoDB investment led us more and more into big data and AI and cloud. And that just sort of blossomed our interest in AI as a fund.
That makes total sense. Now that it is a lot more in vogue, people have caught up, and LLMs obviously are, commercial. How do you guys stand out amidst the rest? Is it, you let your track record speak for itself? Is it that maybe you've been writing these books, which we'll talk about, but when every firm now says they think thoughtfully about AI and they want to make AI investments, how do you stand out above the rest when you do have that, long-standing history, but everyone's speaking the same thing?
It's super hard.
Yeah.
It's a super competitive market, as you know.
I see it, yeah.
And every deal you've got to fight for your allocation once you decide that you want to invest. And look, we do it by trying to be thesis-driven and narrow, even narrower still in each of our micro-theses. So, for example, we had a big thesis on agentic AI 2 years ago.
And did you publish that in a blog? Or when you think about your thesis, is it internal or external?
Both. we often write, and you've seen some of these published. We also do internal work. I was laughing with a friend, writing a book about AI is an absurd task. As soon as it's published, it's completely out of date. But I was able to hit the agentic AI wave at a reasonably good time because even though I wrote the book a year and a half, 2 years ago, it came out 6-9 months ago. Books take time to publish, it turns out. I had agentic AI vision and examples in the book, even though they were sort of very, very early in its thinking. And so we would sort of focus on a theme, but very quickly those themes become commonplace, common knowledge. As a sidebar, in my HBS class, I had Nick Grossman from USV, one of the best firms I think in the world on thematic investing, walk my students through the development over time of the USV thesis, 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, 4.0. And I think one of the things that's interesting about theses is, and Nick had this phrase, is around altitude. You can say, all we do is AI. And 5, 6, 7 years ago, that would have been novel. And then 2, 3 years ago, all we do is agentic AI. That would have been novel. But you've got to keep going down in altitude as time goes on and to manifest the thesis into a very specific investment. And so, for example, we got very focused on the agentic AI revolution. Okay, if every organization in the world has thousands of agents, who's going to orchestrate those agents? What authentication and security measures are going to be in place? What management infrastructure will be in place? And so about a year and a half ago, we started thinking about second-order effects around agentic AI and began to look for companies in that orchestration management layer. And we found one called Arcade that happened to be founded by a former portfolio company CEO, which, by the way, to your question of how do you win in this market, it's
people.
People. Yeah. Multiple time founders. We love those because we've worked with them before. They've worked with us. We've seen success with them. They choose us again. The best founders have choices, and you want to be that choice for them.
Yeah.
And so we had that thesis. We talked about it internally. We've reconnected with this old friend. He was working on this work. We shared our thesis with him. He shared his vision with us. And boom, we make the investment.
On Trailblazers, we spotlight founders who succeed by doing things differently, not by following the playbook, but by rewriting it. Many of those unconventional builders and the VCs backing them run on Brex because it helps them scale with speed and focus. From smart corporate cards and high-yield banking to AI-powered expense management, Brex gives startups the financial stack they need from day one so they can spend more time building and less time managing back-office operations. More than 30,000 companies, from breakout startups like Anthropic and Cursor to global leaders like DoorDash and Plaid, trust Brex to help them spend smarter and move faster. That's why we, as a venture firm and also the podcast, run on Brex too. Sign up at brex.com/trailblazerspod to get started and claim exclusive rewards. That's brex.com/TRAILBLAZERSPOD. RocketReach is the leading sales and lead intelligence solution trusted by sales, marketing, recruiting, and business development teams to grow their businesses. Whether you're looking for a developer halfway around the world, a C-level executive in New York, or a potential investor in Silicon Valley, we connect you directly. With RocketReach, you can easily access the most comprehensive, accurate compilation of emails and phone numbers on Earth. That puts you in front of the right people faster and backs you up with a database that reaches across industries, markets, and titles, using AI to continually improve the quality of your contacts. With RocketReach, you can reach anyone so you can reach higher. Many of you know I love cold outreach. It's been the root of many of my success so far, and this is the tool that I've used the whole time. Trailblazer listeners get 15% off any plan at rocketreach.co/trailblazers. That's rocketreach.co/trailblazers. I love it. I think the comment around USV's thesis and going through one by one is so thoughtful. I feel like people on the podcast are tired of me mentioning USV's theses because I think it's such a great way to crystallize your thinking. And I hadn't heard that altitude framing, but I think that that's so smart, especially as every few years you sort of reevaluate how accurate things are. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the book. So like you said, it's sort of like an oxymoron to talk about AI, which changes so fast, in a book which takes forever. But I love it. I think it's great. Why write the book, The Experimentation Machine, which I want to talk about? That's your most recent book, came out recently. Why write a book? Why not just do a bunch of blog posts? Talk to me a little bit about that decision and what the contents of the book are.
First, I should say writing a book is a terrible thing to do. And I don't recommend it necessarily.
Terrible in what way?
Well, it's a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a labor of love that when you create it, you think to yourself, no one's going to read this. So I'm really doing it almost for the creative art and process as opposed to the outcome. That's at least the attitude I've had in each of the 3 books I've written. I didn't know if anybody would care about this niche little venture capital thing when I wrote Mastering the VC Game, and it came out in 2009. The industry was much more of a cottage. My second book, Entering Startup Land, which I wrote 7-8 years later, was really focused on joiners to help people get into the startup ecosystem, not just employee number 1 and 2, the founding and co-founding team, but employees 3 through 3,000. And then this book, The Experimentation Machine, really focusing on founders and using AI. And what happens with each of these books is that I get an idea or 2 in my head. I write a couple blog posts. I do something in my HBS class. I get some feedback. I study some founders. I get more feedback. I write a case or 2 more, another couple blog posts. And then I step back and I think to myself, I have the scaffolding of a book idea here, and I really should write the book, because writing the book process, the process of writing a book forces me to go deeper on the topic and to really learn. It's a learning journey for me, and it manifests itself in a book that I hope will be helpful to the audience, to the world, but it's really about the journey and the process for me.
I think that's incredible. I think more people should think about writing that way. I'd love to get your take too. I see a lot of people now doing these like AI generated books. It's a very obvious use case, right? You sort of have these like LLMs that know everything about you, and you ingest it with a bunch of data, and then it helps you write the chapters. What's your take on that? Because maybe I'm a little old school, but I think so much of the writing is the processing of your own thoughts and consolidating them, and you have to do that work. You can't outsource that to another human, technology. I'd love to get your take on that, like sort of like the future of writing too, because I do see this interesting trend, and it makes me sad,
I love that you self-identify as old school, even though you don't know
Twisted Sister. Yeah,
or Isaac Asimov.
I know.
And yet, I love that you self-identify as old school.
I do. Well, especially when it comes to certain things, okay? Not old school with everything, but when it comes to writing. I was like of the last generation where we didn't grow up with like social media, so I have this like nostalgia for like hardback
Totally.
books and all that.
And I know it's obvious, like you said, when someone reads a piece of writing and it's AI generated versus human. And obviously the AI writing is getting better and better. And a lot of humans are doing first drafts with AI and editing, or doing a first draft with the human and editing with the AI. So I think it's, I start my book with this phrase, AI is not going to replace founders anytime soon, but founders who use AI effectively are going to replace founders who don't. And in many ways, I think writers who use AI effectively are going to replace writers who don't. But hopefully the quality bar will remain, and the audience will really see that. One sidebar on creativity and AI. We host every year our Flybridge Founders Week. We bring 100 of our founders together and have a bunch of conversations about company building and latest trends. And this year, for fun, my head of platform at Flybridge, Sheree Robinson, created a movie night and hosted filmmakers who are using AI to generate short films. And one of the insights out of that was you can use the new modern AI tools to create junk. And if you're very skilled and you have a sense of creativity and storyline and story arc, you can create something really cool and really beautiful. And so I think the challenge is going to be for the creative types, whether it's authors or filmmakers or software developers and company builders or podcasters, is to create things that are of really high quality, that are curated, that leverage taste and insight and discernment, but leverage the AI tools to be more efficient in that production process.
Totally. And also knowing that it's going to get better. Like, I think that's what I spend a lot of my time talking to people about too. You have to, at this point, I think, to be very nimble with the tools, especially if you want to generate photos or videos. You have to really understand how to prompt correctly, but it's only going to get better. So I think what I also like to say too is like, give it time. You won't have to be a total expert. It'll be democratized, because I think a lot of people now feel intimidated and like, I typed something in wrong. It's not giving me what I want.
Looping back to the comment about VC investment theses.
Yeah.
This year in my venture capital journey class, so I teach 2 classes at HBS. You mentioned launching tech ventures, which is for founders. So it's kind of the platform class that second-year MBA students at Harvard take who aspire to be founders. And then I also teach a class for the aspiring venture capitalists called Venture Capital Journey. And in that class, I brought somebody from Anthropic into the classroom, an alumni who's now one of the leaders there. And I said, we're going to do Claude versus MBA, investment thesis writing. And we're going to have a little contest. You all are going to work on your investment theses for the next 2 weeks. And we're going to then have Claude in 30 minutes with good prompting by this Anthropic leader try to build a better thesis based on your core theme, which is in the length of a tweet off of the USV model.
Yeah.
And we're going to give that to 3 senior VCs who will blind read the 2 theses and judge. And we did that with 2 students and 2 theses. And interestingly, the AI won both times with all 3 VC judges as the stronger investment thesis in 30 minutes. Now, if the students had leveraged the AI tools in the way that this Anthropic executive knew how to prompt and effectively throw in good document data and recursively help the system learn to produce it, and they had applied their research skills and their editing skills to the thesis, it would have made it even better. And so your point is exactly right, which is we've all got to learn how to use these tools. And as the tools keep getting better and better and better, we've all got to adapt and continuously learn how to leverage the better and better tools in these new and novel ways.
Totally. That is such an interesting example. I mean, I'm not surprised that you said that. I think what's sad, though, is it doesn't need to be an either or. You can have the investor with the AI be sort of like the ultimate supercharged winner of the 3. I want to talk a little bit about teaching at HBS. So I don't know, I mean, I haven't done anything about it, but I've always loved college campuses and thought like the dream would be one day to go back and just teach, you know? And there's something so exciting about being on a college campus when people have so much ahead of them, whether they're getting a grad degree or an undergrad degree. What made you want to go back and teach? And I also want to hear, starting this VC-specific class, what made you add that on when you were already doing a lot with the LTV class?
Yeah, so first, it occurred somewhat organically. The department head of the entrepreneurship unit was a faculty leader whose class I took when I was a student, and she and I had a great relationship, and she invited me in and said, I really think you'd be great at teaching. You should come join the faculty 15 years ago. And I said, that sounds amazing when I'm in my late 50s or 60s.
Exactly.
Like I'm in the middle of starting this venture fund and kind of busy, 3 kids, got a couple things going on. And she said, no, we'll set you up. You could do very part-time. We'll give you an office. We'll give you support. We'll give you a budget. And we'll attach you to another faculty member, and you can co-teach, and they'll do all the grading and handle all the administrative stuff. And so it was a little bit like boiling the frog. You know, every year I would do a little more, and the water would get a little warmer. And before you knew it, I was kind of fully immersed in boiling water at Harvard Business School. And so I just found what you said, Erica, which is that in our case, these 26, 27, 28-year-olds who spend all day thinking about what's next, who are incredibly talented and incredibly ambitious, they come into my classroom, many of them from the tech industry now, more and more have experience as joiners or even co-founders or technical founders themselves. A few have been through the accelerators. A few of them were venture capitalists. And they are fired up to spend the next 2 years thinking about the next big thing and building it. And so our culture has moved from a culture of opportunity managers to opportunity creators and builders. And that's been awesome to see in the 15 years that I've been there. And so I'm just so drawn by founders in my day job as a venture capitalist, and I'm drawn by these incredible Harvard Business School founders in my side hustle as a faculty member.
Yeah, it's not as much a side hustle. It's you got kind of 2 full-time jobs. You're doing a lot.
Yeah.
And also author and also writer and all the other things. You're handling a lot. You're juggling a lot. I wanted to ask you a little bit about getting an MBA or not getting an MBA. So I feel like you're a very interesting person to ask about this because you sit at an interesting intersection. So, you know, there's some VCs think if you get an MBA, it's a negative signal because you're supposed to be always out building since you were 13 and coding. And some VCs think, no, actually, it's a great thing. You have sort of that foundational knowledge. You have a great network. What's your take and advice for people who are thinking about, do I get an MBA or do I not? And maybe we can also talk about maybe they want to be an operator, maybe they want to be a founder, maybe they want to be a VC, because I think the answer is different depending on what career you want to have.
First, I would just be very honest about the math. The opportunity cost is very high. Tuition, $70,000, $80,000, $90,000 with room and board each year, 2 years, plus you miss out on salary for 2 years. That's a $400,000 or $500,000 investment. So it's a very non-trivial investment. So every day I walk into the classroom a little bit intimidated with how much value I have to deliver in 80 minutes.
Yeah, I'm sure you've done that math of like, how many students do I have? My 1 hour is worth an insane amount. Yeah.
That just, I am so conscious of how high the bar is and how high their expectations are of me and of us. And I relish that set of high expectations, but that's the reality. So I would say if you can get into a top business school where you can get access to an incredible network of peers, the fellow students that you can learn from, and faculty and alumni, then it can be worth it, although it's a very high bar, if you want to transition or replatform yourself. So if you were a consultant or an investment banker or a private equity executive and you want to be a founder, or if you were a founder and you want to be a venture capitalist or some combination therein, it can work amazingly well. And if you really have this attitude of lifelong learning, because the MBA investment is a 40-year, 50-year payback curve. Yes, you're going to take a step back and it's going to cost you, as I just said, a lot of money. But in theory, it's going to put you on a higher slope, which eventually will have an extraordinary compounding impact. And if you think of your career as a 40 or 50-year journey, the compounding effect of this network and this set of foundational skills is extraordinary. And I'll just give you one example on this point from a technical lens, since you mentioned that. Most technical founders I work with really struggle to do the strategic hard work of how to build an enduring, valuable business. They get the product right. Maybe they get the team building and leadership right, but it's really hard sometimes for them to get the strategic steps required to build an enduring, valuable business. And that's all we talk about in the MBA program, is combining insight of innovation, Clay Christensen, disruptive innovation.
I know him.
Thank
Don't you worry.
Thank you.
Don't you worry.
I was checking.
I know. Great book.
Great book, great
Yes.
theory, and some of these big theories around thinking about how to build an enduring, valuable company and judging the quality of a business model. Because it's easy with the AI tools to jump in and build. It's easier than ever to build. But the discernment, judgment, and strategic thinking required to build a valuable, enduring, profitable business model, there are some fundamentals that are timeless in that journey, and we're trying to teach that timeless set of lessons with the timely AI tools.
Yeah, I think now more than ever that's important, like you said, because it's easier to build. I did want to just ask you a quick sidebar question. Because you are so knowledgeable about AI and you do meet so many founders, you know, we all talk about how software has become so commoditized. Anyone can build. What do you see as the moat? Is it this concept around like judging good business models and having that like strategic thinking that you teach at, you know, HBS? Or is it something else entirely that you think will separate the winners and losers? Because one thing I always say is, you know, VCs used to get 5 decks with the same idea. Now they get 50 decks with the same idea. So like, how do you think about picking winners and losers?
So this is the debate we have in every partners meeting every week with every company. And it's very hard to synthesize it in a short answer, but I'll do my best. The first thing I would say is execution velocity is incredibly important. There's a couple people who have said this phrase that the new mode is velocity. And I think that's really true. We have to see evidence of execution velocity in today's day and age. Even as seed investors, we look for that. Even as pre-seed investors, we look for that. We have a phrase we use a lot internally, which is seed strapping, this ability to bootstrap with a very small seed investment your way through a huge amount of progress, something that could never happen before. So we're really looking for founders who not only have a good idea, who not only have some earned secret in an area of what we think will yield a valuable company and an exciting market, but also this extraordinary execution velocity. And then secondly, we sort of look at a set of strategic criteria to determine, can this be an enduring valuable company over time as the models get better? Is there proprietary data here? Are there the possibilities of, workflows that can be really embedded in the system, and so that you can become a system of record for a cohort of the population? And do you have some insight that will be hard to replicate from the outside? It's a really high bar, candidly. And we push ourselves as partners in each meeting. What's the execution velocity evidence here? How good is the proprietary data? How strong is the competitive moat? Is OpenAI just going to kill this startup with GPT 5, 6, 7,
Totally.
8? So those are the kinds of questions that we really push ourselves and talk about.
Yeah, and I think honestly having someone like you share that on a podcast like this, it'll help founders really push themselves, because I think they don't understand. And, even I have been shocked to see just how many really smart folks are tackling the same ideas and how hard it is to find a true moat now. Just a very different time than a decade ago. So you've been at Harvard for a bit. And I wanted to ask, is there one standout founder or maybe operator that you think of like, oh, I saw them first? They were like, in my class, always raising their hand, always had something smart to say, or I saw the early innings of that, company that's now a unicorn. I'd love to hear from you just a story of a student that you met at HBS that you look back on and you're like, wow, if nothing else, like that's being part of that story was worth it.
I'll tell you one I did not invest in.
Yeah.
And one I did invest in. One that I did not invest in was an amazing young man named Bom Kim, who was a Korean student at HBS, and came to me and said, Jeff, I'm going to start the Groupon of Korea. And at the time, Groupon was the hottest company around. This is 2009, 2010.
Yeah, I was going to say that was a while ago. Yeah.
Oh.
Groupon's been out for a bit. Yeah.
A long time ago.
Yeah.
And I thought that's a really stupid idea. Groupon's business model is not sustainable. Korea is a small market. Not sure where this is going to go. But I had made a number of e-commerce investments. I made a few introductions for him, spent a little time with him. But in my mind, it was early, raw, and I don't invest in Korea. And so I let it go. Bom raised a small seed round, pre-seed round, moved to Korea, and started a company called Coupang, which became the Amazon of Korea. He pivoted from Groupon to Amazon. Coupang today is about a $60 billion market cap company. And those angel investors, it absolutely made their funds. And the two funds in New York that it really made are Founder Collective and Primary. If you look back on the success of those two funds, Coupang is at the center of that success.
Wow.
David Frankel at Founder Collective very shrewdly put $100,000 in, if my memory serves me correctly. And the Primary team invested meaningfully over many rounds in Coupang, and it really made the firm.
Wow.
So that's one I missed.
I'm sorry. That's painful.
It happens.
It happens.
The one I did invest in the pre-seed round is a company called FalconX, which was in the news recently for an acquisition that they did. They're an institutional crypto trading platform and was founded by two students who were in my class and sat next to each other in 2014. And they each went off into different areas. One went to work at Google. One went to work at a venture capital firm. They got really into the crypto craze in 2017, 2018. And they said, okay, Coinbase is going to be for retail. We're going to build for institutions. And they built this incredible AI-driven institutional trading platform, which to this day now has executed $2 trillion worth of trades, is the leading player in the space, and recently it's been publicly stated was valued at $8 billion. And we had the privilege of investing in the pre-seed round. I won't say the valuation at the time, but it was a pre-seed round valuation in 2018.
Before crypto really took off, so it was probably a pretty good number, yeah.
Very good investment for us. And those two founders are exceptional entrepreneurs, and I have had the privilege of seeing the CEO, Raghu, from being in my classroom to being a young PM at Google to being this scrappy founder to now being invited to the White House for the crypto dinner in the, I don't know which room, whatever the fancy room is at the White House, with all the leading crypto executives, being consulted on all the major policy issues. He's become a leader in the industry and may someday be a public company CEO, and just so proud of his growth and development.
And it's amazing that you saw the two co-founders sitting next to each other in class, probably just chit-chatting before you got to some random lecture. Like, it's very special to have those moments.
Very special, but I don't do random lectures, just to be clear.
Oh, very thoughtful. Very thoughtful, good lectures.
Case conversations.
Okay, wait, I was going to ask
you. Case discussions.
Is there one, class lecture that you do every single time? Because I know you've done these classes so many times. I imagine you got to switch it up just for your own sanity. Is there one core course, or I guess we'll say it, 1 week of the course that you do in either LTV or the venture capital one that you just every, semester, every year you have to do it?
So case method, every case is different and every story is different. And every year I try to bring in new cases because LTV began in 2011. If I were to bring into the 2025 classroom or the 2026 classroom next spring companies that started in 2011, 2010, 2012, it wouldn't be relevant. So I have to always keep the cases fresh. But every year, each semester, I do a last lecture. So I don't do any lecturing, really, in the classroom. It's all case method. But the last day of class, and it's a little bit of a tradition that some faculty do at HBS, is you give a very personal last lecture. You don't summarize the course frameworks and theories and all that, as you just tell a little bit about a personal story. And so that's probably the thing that I do each year that I have to really gear up for because it's very personal, but I try to convey a few life lessons from decades of experience.
I love that. I feel like we could all benefit from putting together a little life lecture. What are all the things we've learned? Not enough people do that, reflect on their journey so far. If you work in venture or startups, you know the constant juggling act. Replying to messages from co-investors, founders, LPs, customers, and teammates, all hitting your personal number. I know this very well. We all hand out our cell, which means your EA can't help an iMessage, and important threads get buried. That's why I'm very excited about Quo, formerly OpenPhone. It's built for founders and investors like us who want communication that feels personal but stays organized. Quo gives you a dedicated business line on your existing cell phone. And if you already have a business number, you can bring it with you for free. Plus, you'll get call summaries, transcripts, and an AI voice agent called Sona that can answer and schedule when you're offline. We're actually cooking up something fun with the Quo team right now and using that same voice AI tech in a new way for our firm. More soon, but it's a great reminder that you can use voice AI to stay top of mind of your customers' needs. Quo is trusted by over 90,000 businesses and rated number 1 on G2 for customer satisfaction. You can get 20% off your first 3 months at quo.com/trailblazers. That's quo.com/trailblazers. I've actually used Gusto at 3 different companies, and every time it's been such a relief. It's simple, it's reliable, my paycheck was always on time, no drama. And unlike the big clunky payroll systems out there, Gusto is affordable and designed for teams like ours. Gusto is online payroll and benefits software built for small businesses. It's all-in-one, remote-friendly, and incredibly easy to use, so you can pay, hire, onboard, and support your team from anywhere. Try Gusto today at gusto.com/trailblazers and get 3 months free when you run your first payroll. That's 3 months of free payroll at gusto.com/trailblazers. One more time, gusto.com/trailblazers. Okay, well, let's get to our lightning round. I could ask you a bunch more questions, but I'll be mindful of your time, so let's do it. Let me know whatever comes to mind, okay? Book in hand or podcast in ears?
Book in hand.
Okay, any favorite books recently?
I'm currently reading Andrew Jackson biography by John Meacham called American Lion.
Wow. I feel like Andrew Jackson's like a forgotten president. We don't talk about him enough.
Well, the current environment inspired me to read about Andrew Jackson.
Oh, tell me more. What was happening during his presidency that is mimicked now?
Andrew Jackson was the first president to really create executive power. The presidency was a small office, and he turned it into a large office.
So interesting. Got to look at history. Everything, what is it? History doesn't repeat, it rhymes or something?
That's
right?
it.
Yeah. Okay. Morning person or night owl?
Morning person.
Really early or normal early?
Somewhere in between.
Okay. Cooking dinner or ordering in?
This is a funny question.
Mm-hmm.
So
you can give your aspirational answer and your honest answer.
The honest answer is that my wife is an excellent cook and I'm a terrible cook. During COVID, I took it upon myself to try to learn how to cook, and I went from a 1 out of 10 to probably a 2.5. And so My kids and my wife tease me, and my nickname in the household when I say that I'm going to cook something is Chef Jeff. And if I do something successful, I make a huge deal out of it. And my batting average is getting a little better, but I'm not a Hall of Famer by any stretch.
I respect the honesty. 2.5. I think more people think that they jump higher, but you're being really honest. Is there any dish where you can't mess up and you're like, I'm technically a 2.5, but this one dish is like an 8 or 9?
Shrimp scampi.
Oh.
Or apple crumble for dessert.
Oh, both great. Crowd favorites. VC or bootstrapping?
VC.
You gotta say it. Okay. Networking dinner or big conference?
Networking dinner.
Okay. Hire slow or fire fast?
Both.
If you had to pick.
Fire fast.
Tell me more.
Speed of execution is everything. So I'm okay with hiring fast and firing fast.
But not hire slow, fire slow, because that's kind of a cancer in the org. Yeah. 10 small wins or 1 moonshot?
Well, the VC business is all about moonshots.
Okay.
So
you got to subscribe.
Got to subscribe.
Yep. Being early or being right?
I confess I love being right and I love being early.
Okay.
So it's hard to choose.
You got to choose.
I would say being right.
Okay. Never post on social media again or never fundraise another dollar again?
If I had to choose, I would say never fundraise.
Tell me more about that.
Fundraising is always a grind for any fund manager, no matter how good your performance, no matter how many years you've been at this. We just raised our 7th fund. In the middle of our fundraise, Trump had Liberation Day. A few people were a little distracted during that period of time.
Hard to get commits when there's other things happening. Yeah, absolutely. And you like posting on socials, it sounds like. If that's really reigning true, you like being able to communicate.
I enjoy
everyone.
writing, and I enjoy explaining things.
Yeah.
Or trying to explain things.
Yeah. AI hype or AI fatigue?
They sound like two sides of the same coin. I would say AI bull.
Well, AI hype is like, it's like, it's underhyped. There's a lot more to come. AI fatigue is it's overhyped. I'm over it.
I'm totally AI hype.
Yeah, you're ready. You're ready to go. Guns blazing. 40 years.
10X.
I'm ready for the 50th.
10X.
I love it. How can folks follow you and support you and all the work you're doing at Flybridge?
Great question. LinkedIn is probably the best place to connect.
Amazing. Awesome. Well, thanks for being here, Jeff.
Thank you.
I
Great
appreciate
to be
it.
here. Yeah.
On Trailblazers, we're always talking about multiplying your impact, and that's exactly what Athena helps you do. Athena pairs you with a world-class executive assistant who becomes a true force multiplier for your business and your life. Working with my Athena assistant has been transformative. Gab was instrumental in raising Park Rangers Capital's fund in ways that I could have never imagined an assistant could contribute. From closing 6-figure checks to identifying new LPs we should meet to matching my tone perfectly in follow-up emails. He's elevated my capacity as a founder by giving me more time to focus on the highest leverage work. Athena isn't just about scheduling meetings, it's about unlocking leverage. Hundreds of founders, investors, and executives trust Athena to free their time and scale their impact. Athena is offering our listeners $2,000 off for their first year of service and priority onboarding. And you want that, trust me, there's a very long wait list. When you're ready to multiply your impact and free up time for the things only you can do, go to athenago.me/Erica-Wenger. That's athenago.me/ERICA-WENGER. Thanks so much for listening to the Trailblazers podcast. If you enjoyed this conversation, be sure to follow the show so you never miss an episode. You can also support our work by sharing it with a friend or leaving a quick review. It helps more contrarian builders find us. For more on Park Rangers Capital and our community of elephant founders, head to parkrangerscap.com or find me online at Erica_Wenger. Until next time, keep trailblazing.